Hey, so I'm talking with my buddy Scott Story, and he asked me some questions about some things in Manga Studio, and I thought I'd just whip out a quick video for that. The thing that we were talking about was some techniques that I was using in um, a, uh, um, a book that I did for him recently that he wrote. It was a kind of a film noir Johnny Saturn sort of thing. Um, and what I was doing in it was that he was asking about was creating these panels in Manga Studio that used a sort of a jaggy edge to them. So here we are inside Manga Studio, and I'm going to drop a panel out here in our scene and show you some things about these panels um, and how things work inside here. So if I grab my panel right here, you could see in the layer properties right here, we've got a number of different tool navigations that come up that we can reach, and that'll let us go into, really easily into different tools that relate to what we're doing here. Um, so here's where we're going to go on this is to the object tool, and in the object tool, um, you can see all the options that we have uh, for the drawing of a panel. Since I had a white in my color selected, it made my border white. So I'm going to click on that and go ahead and drag that down to black. Now you'll see this thick black border. I actually use a really heavy 50 pixel border on a lot of my Apocalypse Girl stuff, so that's what this preset's from. So, but the thing that he was asking about specifically was changing the stroke of a panel border. So, if you go into brush shape that's in this dialog right here, then you can get into all the different brush shapes that are available to you inside Manga Studio. So, for instance, if we were to grab spray and zoom in, you can see that you'll get this little sprayed thingy. And if we increase or decrease the size on that brush, that's the effect you get for that panel border. On the Johnny Saturn piece that we were talking about, I had used a custom pen that I had made, a thing called Pen Scrub, and because I really like those scrubby borders. Sometimes you'll see in work from guys like McFarlane or Will Spertatio. That's a dude. I love that dude. And he used to do that. Well, he probably still does that. I haven't seen a lot of his recent work, but I know he used to do that all the time. And it just, for really dynamic panels and things. And then, of course, if you want to just bust it out of that square and give it dynamic shape, then you can go over to the tool navigation to this guy right here, and you can add points to your panel. You can do all kinds of wacky stuff with it. So that's just a quick look at changing the stroke that's on your panel. Now, to create a stroke like that, I created this one many months ago, so I don't remember exactly what I did on it. I have a ton of brushes and things that I've made, really pen settings that I've made for doing certain types of effects and things really quickly. And while I am a traditional guy to a great degree, sometimes I like to do my pages on paper and get away from the computer because I spend so much time on computers. It just drives me nuts with all the work that I do. Sometimes I like to get away from it, but a lot of times there are tools and things here, and I need to get things done quickly, and I'll use these. I'll use some of these tools for making brushes that will allow me to do some things that normally are kind of time consuming very quickly. And here you can see just a few of these brushes. This one's really kind of cool. Like if I want to do kind of an old Arthur Adams explodey sort of deal, I've got a few of these here. This one's really nice for that. You know, if I just kind of patiently do these strokes. But to create the stroke that I used for that panel border, if memory serves correctly, pretty sure what I did was took just a regular pen with make corners pointed turned on. I kind of scrubbed a little bit with it, and then came back in and probably scrubbed a little bit more across it, and just letting those pointed corners kick out and create, you know, some kind of a jaggy sort of shape. And then do a little variation on that. So you get these different inky sort of strokes. Then I would take my wand, select some of that, and then hit Register Image as Material. I'm going to call this Test Blob 1. And then we'll turn on Use for Brush Tip Shape. And I'm just going to put test in my search tag here, so that makes it easier to find later. Oh, almost forgot. Have to pick some place to save this stuff. So let's save it under my brushes. Okay, and then we'll repeat that for these other two. So test blob 2. And I'm just going to pop that in here. Okay. And let's do a third one. The reason we're doing multiples of these is so that when we construct our brush stroke, you have different strokes that you can have layer into each other. So next we're going to do Register Image as Material. Test blob 3. Use for brush shape, image, brush, and test. Okay. So now we have all these saved. I'm going to delete them and start a new brush. Oh, there's a message for me. Start a new brush or pen. So I'm just going to duplicate this one. Okay, I'm going to call it Test Blob because I'm probably going to delete this when I'm done with it. Then I'll go into the tool properties for this. Go down to brush tip and then click on material. And now I'm going to go into these materials, do a quick search for test, and you'll see I have all three of these. And if I shift click across them, if I click one then shift click the others, then they'll all be added. I hit OK. So now all three of those brush tip shapes are added to my stroke. So I'll register all settings to initial settings. It's kind of like saving. So here's what you see we have so far. And right now, you know, those are all going to follow this direction. And we're going to play around with some of the settings on that. I think I need to make some of those visible. So we're going to stroke. I'm going to turn on gap and the visibility for that. I want ribbon available and visible. Repeat method available and visible. Then let's see, spraying effect. Might not always use that, but I like to have these things available just in case. And let's see, was there anything else? Brush shape, no, brush tip, direction. That was a big one, big one there. All right, so register those. Let's go in and turn that that scattering off. the spray. Where did that go? That's in here. There it is. Spraying effect. We'll just turn that off. And now we can play with our direction. Okay. And start to randomize some of this a bit. Now obviously right now this is so dense you can barely even tell the strokes and the different globs that I've tossed in there. So let's set our gap to something a little further apart. And if you look close, you can see it should be cycling through all three of those different brush tips. Let's add brush stroke on there. Sometimes I like to use that. Okay. If we turn on ribbon, you'll see that it kind of pulls each of those along the stroke. I'm going to turn that off. Let's make these go forward to back with each other. That's going to give us a little more natural jagginess there. Oh. And I'm also going to turn my anti-aliasing all the way off because I want this to have that kind of broken up feeling that you get from things that are super pixelated and jaggy. When it prints, it'll end up having a really sharp ink feel to it. Let's just take you and turn you off for a second. I tend to keep Skype on most of the time. If this were a a paid tutorial or a paid video or something like that, I obviously would turn that crap off. But this is just something quick. So anyway, once you've got some settings that you like for a brush, once you've got some settings that you like for a brush, then you can save that as a brush shape. Okay, so I'm going to register a preset of this now called Test Blob. So now if I come back to my panel, okay, and I get my tool properties for that panel from here, and I go to brush shape where we started out at, I can hit my test blob. This obviously needs a little more refinement. It's a little too static and a little too obvious, but that's how you can create customized shapes. And you could use them for brushes and things too, but one of the most common ways that I use these is for doing interesting things with panel borders. So anyway, that's a quick look into that. Sorry I got a little bit bogged down with the actual creation of a brush, but it's kind of part of the process. So anyway, Scott, dude, hope that helps. And anybody else who watches, hope you dig it, hope it helps, and hope you learned something from it. If not, no biggie. Remember, I'm Les from 6S1. I do Apocalypse Girl, which hopefully is going to come out sometime in the spring. And be sure to check out Scott Story's Johnny Saturn stuff. I got a book coming with him pretty soon that I'm real happy with. So anyway, yeah, that's all. And hope you come back and watch the next thing I post. So yeah, later.